Okay, well, I do want to go back to. I know I brought up Rutherford, and so then we jumped into it, but I want to kind of go back to the beginning because um, I feel like I always feel slightly uncomfortable when I don't want to. I want to feel just normal, about talking about this, but
Yeah.
I don't know if certain terms that I might use and not intentionally trying to offend someone are offensive. I don't know if asking certain questions are offensive or making certain assumptions. And so I think that that's like ignorance, but I don't want it to be. So I want to get better at that. Um, but like I texted you, like, do you want to talk about Native American history? And you said Indigenous. So is that okay to say either way, or is there a proper way to ask, or could you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. There's so many the nomenclature is complicated. So you want to kind of go take it on back um to, when good old Chris Columbus discovered America, because he thought he was in India, and of course named the folks there, namely the Taino people, Indians. And so that was kind of like the common nomenclature, Indians. Today, Indigenous people use Indians with each other as like a reclaimed terminology, but it's not necessarily something that's like not a slur, but not necessarily something that's like you don't you don't really know what to call us, do you? If somebody said that, or like, I would be like, oh, if somebody said like, oh, because you know how Indians feel or something, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that's what. Uh, it would
Yeah, and
just,
I
it's
do feel
kind of
like
an
I shouldn't say
internal.
that. Okay.
Yeah. Now that being
I
said,
would probably
there
never say that, you know?
there are a lot of like legal distinctions and like governmental program distinctions where American Indians are designated as a racial class. And so, in that terminology, in a lot of like census and government programs, it's referred to as American Indians. That's definitely outdated, but that's you see that in some institutional literature and references around um, laws and government programs and that kind of thing. Then of course there's Native American, which is more modern, and I'd say more appropriate than saying Indians. That being said, one of the more current views on that name is that Indigenous people existed on this land before um, it was called America. And so it kind of it
I
gives
see
more
what you're
credit to
saying.
America than it deserves, I guess. Like
Yeah.
America doesn't deserve us, really, but but it doesn't honor the the time, the tenure, the testimony, the the natural and oral history. To limit it to America really just says like this is the Western beginning of this story, uh,
I
which
totally hear what you're saying. Yeah. That makes
there
complete
is that.
sense.
There is that.
Because if you were already
Yeah,
here and you called yourself something, and then new people showed up and said, this land is called America, you're Native Americans, that's kind of insulting. So I get it.
yeah, yeah. Indigenous is probably most appropriate just because it acknowledges that um, someone has, kinship and attachment to tribal people in the land. Um, but that also depends on like where you are in Turtle Country or Turtle Island, whether that's like North America, South America, in Canada. tribes are often referred to as First Nations. Um, like in um, Australia and New Zealand, you know, they tend to use Aboriginal or Aborigines. Like across the world, there are different appropriate nomenclatures, but here in the currently known as United States, I would say indigenous or indigenous people are probably like the the best way for you to like group people in a name that is inclusive and respectful.
Okay. That no, thank you so much for sharing that because
That was
I
maybe
really I had no
choppy coming
idea.
out. Sorry.
No, it wasn't. It makes complete sense. And I feel like I should know that, but now I do. So I'm going to definitely try to use that better.
Here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to like let you off the hook for what you think you should know better.
Okay.
Because we can all know things better, but one of the reasons why you and a lot of people feel clueless about indigenous people, indigenous history, is because of erasure. It's intentional. It's been hundreds of years of snuffing out a story in order to maintain the mythology. So it was on purpose that you don't know this. And so you can
Right.
go ahead and just like give yourself permission to not know and just be like, okay, yeah, I don't know. It's uncomfortable not knowing. Um, but just understanding that like this was intentionally kept from you, I hope that can give you and other people courage and permission to like dive into something maybe a little more I don't know, like I don't know, with maybe just with less reticence than you would if you just felt like it was your personal shortcoming that you didn't know.